Welcome back, everybody. We are so excited. I see a lot of progress on these catapults in those breakout rooms. I see some people are putting in how far their catapults are launching, which is amazing. Right now, we're going to take, you can keep working, but we want you to pay attention. We have two amazing mentors here. They're going to introduce themselves, and then it's your opportunity to ask them some questions. So, teachers, get to those keyboards, type your questions in chat. I am going to pass it off to the amazing Imani to introduce herself, and we're going to take it away for our Q&A.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Imani Olafumilai Muliti. I am currently a graduate, almost graduate. Sorry, this is my last day of grad school, so super fun. But yeah, I'm currently in the Master of Science for Data Science program at Columbia University. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics at Clark Atlanta University, which is an HBCU in Atlanta, home of Lemon Pepper Wings, Amigos, the Falcons, I don't know. But yeah, and my interests, yeah, they're in data science, all things data visualizations, data storytelling, but also like the people aspect of data. So like accessibility, ethical data science, ethical AI, all of those super, super cool things. I'm really excited to talk to you all today. And just for like a brief intro about like myself and how I got into engineering in the first place. So I actually went to the Academy Mount St. Ursula. And while I was there, I thought, as the Nigerian and Kenyan I am, I had been trained to be a doctor one day. That was the goal. That was the mark. And then I got to like my junior year of high school and I was like, you know what, Mom, this pre-med thing we've been dreaming of, it's not gonna happen. Not through me, maybe your other child though. And so she asked me, what are you gonna do? And I honestly had no idea, but I was like pretty good in math and my SAT scores were pretty decent. So I just kind of blurted out, I'm gonna do math. And no one knew what that meant, which is real. We don't meet a lot of math majors, but I ended up applying to schools as a math major and seeing which schools would take me. And my only two requirements for schools, I wanted to be as far as possible from New York. I wanted to not only leave home, leaving home wasn't enough. I needed to leave the nest. I needed to leave the states of New York, the Northeast, if possible. And I also really wanted to go to an HBCU, a historically Black college or university. And so that's actually how I ended up at Clark Atlanta University, which is in the AUC, if you all know, like Spelman College, Morehouse College, if you've ever watched A Different World, where that was filmed, that's my school. We are the university in the Atlanta University Center. And yeah, while I was at Clark, my interests honestly kind of stayed the same as when I was in high school. I feel like forever I've always had an interest in like cultures and people and communities and building communities. And so that's what my 4 years at Clark really looked like. I spent a lot of time doing like community organizing. Here I am on the left in South Africa doing some community work. I was also super involved in the African Students Association. I was the leader of the dance group. I was vice president. I was president. Any role that we had on eBoard at one point or another, I was it probably twice. I don't know. And also I had the opportunity to become a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, the I believe the #1 Black sorority. You can tell a friend to tell a friend. And also, once again, super integrated in community service, especially in the Black community. And so when I was doing all of these things, everyone was like, well, aren't you a math major? And I was like, you are absolutely right. Yes, I still work with numbers. And for the longest, I didn't really know how to connect them to each other, like how to take my interests for people, right, and their stories and like, what am I going to do integrals on? But that's actually how I stumbled upon data science. And my first data science project was really my first experience with data science altogether. And this is the little timeline of like my major projects and like where I'm at right now. I'm not going to go through all of it. I mean, it's, we could be here for hours. But yeah, I started in the middle of a pandemic, super fun. And I was working with George Washington and we were actually predicting, using data to predict like COVID-19 case and death rates in New York City. And as someone who was in New York at the time, getting the data every day and watching the numbers go up and up, I was like, wow, what a time to be alive, you know? But it was a super fun project. We were actually able to use our findings to advocate for more effective allocation of resources across the boroughs because there were some huge disparities. And so from that project, I was like, I kind of like this data thing. Let's see if we could do it again. And so every year I did a project, and I worked with organizations like rooting for like proper healthcare access. I worked with UCLA and the California Innocence Project. And now I'm at Columbia. And even while I've been in this program, I worked with JP Morgan this past summer, and also did like some side consulting work, which was super, super fun. And so, yeah, that's just kind of how I stumbled into it. It's really just a merging of my passions and I guess like my academic talent in math. Super niche. You don't see a lot of people who are in this specific niche of data science, but it is super important and I love it. It brings me joy. So yes, that is my story. And now I'll actually pass it on to Josh.
Oh, awesome. So awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Imani, for that introduction. So yeah, my name is Josh. I'm a senior at MIT currently. This is my second to last day here. I have just one final tomorrow in algorithms. So we are pushing through finals week right now. A little about me. First, I'm a proud Scholars alum, Scholars Academy. I do see you guys with Mr. Palino, so good to see you all again. I'm a electrical engineering and computer science major, or ECS, or even Core 6. There is a certain stereotype at MIT that we only speak in numbers. This is in fact true. So I have to really like think about it actively. If I say electrical engineering, computer science, I would say I'm a 6'2", is what I would say here. So Imani, if you had gone to MIT, you would be a course 18, so what you would be studying math. But yeah, fun fact. My interests are a little widespread, but one thing I am interested in learning more about is decarbonization of the electric grid. So like Imani, I also love math and got to study quite a bit of it, even as a 6'2", so to say. I did take plenty of 18 courses. And what's really fascinating is that a lot of the pure math, or a lot of the crazy calculus some of you might be studying, is actually very, very useful in the real world. I remember I was in AP Calc BC and we were doing Taylor series, and someone asked the teacher, Ms. Greco, why are we learning this? Like, what is this good for? And we were all just like, well, I don't know. I think we're just doing this for the test. But I kid you not, day one of MIT, my first problem in physics, no less, was to use a Taylor series, and it was not like a pure math problem. It was like a real world problem. So yeah, so we can go to the next slide to give you a little overview of my life in high school. So when I was in ninth grade, I hated STEM. I thought it was just shoved down my throat. Everyone was talking about engineering. I did not want to do anything with it. I was like, I'm just going to be a lawyer or like something humanities based, because no one talks about that. And I love crime drama TV shows. But then in between sophomore and junior year, I took this program called All-Star Code. And it is a computer science education and teaching soft skills to underrepresented Black and brown boys, such as myself. And I really saw coding explained for the first time in a way that made sense to me. That's a picture of me in our cohort. And I loved it. I mean, it was like music to me. It was like you have this set of logical rules and you use them to build something very creative. And code is free. So I had a computer and that's all I needed to go build stuff. Then the year after, I did a switched and did a program called Sound Thinking NYC, and that was all about music production. And I was like, I'm not really sure what this world is, but I remember one of the first days we were talking about this thing called signal processing and how music actually gets into the computer. And they said basically like music is just a list of numbers that the computer interprets as different voltage levels. And so if you pass them into a microphone enough, the microphone will like rise and fall according to these voltage levels. And if you do it fast enough, that's how you get a sound wave. And I was like, that is super cool. So I had that in the back of my mind as we went into college, into MIT. So we can go to the next slide, and there's a few more pictures. So I was a class of 2020, so my freshman fall was virtual. But I was able to do a lot of things. So in my freshman year, I actually did research in the literature department. So very funny, I actually did find myself in humanities. But I was writing full stack web applications for humanities professors' projects. So it was kind of like AP English and Calc were coming together in a very beautiful fashion. My first project was to create this interactive map that showed Paris, but like what Paris was like in the 1970s. So imagine Google Maps, but like if you click an area of Google Maps, instead of showing you the picture of what it looks like now, it shows you the picture of what it looked like 40, 50 years ago. So that was very interesting. We also one other thing I did, we created an interactive language learning app for Japanese. And then we also created an application for music professors to turn different types of data into sound. So the music was a common theme. I also did an all-star code-like program in between sophomore and junior year of college called SEO Tech Developer, and that just continued along the all-star code route teaching, showing me full stack web application skills. But I also did a fair amount of electrical engineering. So that picture there is the end of a final project last spring. And it was the four of us in this analog electronics class. That is actually a synthesizer. So if you see like Nord pianos or people like doing keyboards, that actually does the same thing, but it's fully electric. And so we'd have like waveforms come in, and we'd have like little knobs that we could use to adjust the sound, but everything is circuit based. So that's really cool. And of course, we can't forget engineering tomorrow. That is indeed how I spent my last summer, working on labs like machine learning, networks, embedded systems, other things. So yeah, super excited to be here with you guys, and ask away. We are here for you today.
Actually, Josh, I saw that there was a question in the chat for you. Okay, so someone from Dobbins High School, I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm seeing a few shakes, so I'm hoping yes. They asked, how do you account for climate change eliminating some of the traditional ways to decarbonize the electric grid?
Wow, that is such a deep question.
No, it is.
That's such a deep question. I'm going to answer from the little I know about this, but let's see, climate change. Okay. So I guess I'm not sure like what you think of traditional ways, I guess like hydroelectric or solar, but one thing is that these kind of renewable sources are very unpredictable. And so people are like saying, oh, why are we using these like non-renewable energy sources? And it's because they're the only reliable source that we have. Like fossil fuels have this really great quality about them that you can just flick them on and flick them off. And they just have this nice base load. Right now, the world cannot handle fully renewable generation because what happens? So we have climate change, for example, right? Let's say you have a whole field of solar panels that's providing you some nice clean energy. What happens if a cloud goes across that field? It's a blackout if you have fully solar energy. So actually, what people have to do is yes, and also plug for the green hydrogen and renewable energy labs. So what people have to do when they're modeling this is they actually have to model renewable sources as like a negative load. So imagine like modeling it as a refrigerator that instead of giving taking energy, it gives energy. So that's like one of the factors. You have to be really smart and use a ton of math to kind of like factor that into a growing, a gradually renewable energy ecosystem. Yeah, that's a great question. Imani, I see another question in the chat. We can both answer this, but what classes or skills from high school helped you be successful in college?
Oh, that's actually a really good question. I think, yeah, sometimes when people think about going from high school to college, they think they're just going to reinvent themselves and like everything's just going to come to them naturally because, they're just creating the life they want. But those transferable skills, they definitely help a lot. I would say probably the biggest thing would definitely be like time management and studying, funnily enough. I think when I was in high school, we were just used to getting like more frequent, exams and quizzes. and essays and things of that nature. And when I was in college, or even now in grad school, like I have a class and it's 2 tests. So there's that, you know. If you're not studying in between, you know, we sometimes take those essays and homework assignments for granted, but those are the things that help you test if you actually know the material that you actually know. So yeah, definitely learning to study on my own has definitely been a really big skill. And yeah, time management, as I said before, I was a part of a lot of different things. And I found myself freshman year overbooking myself and like running across campus to go from one meeting to the other. And so, yeah, definitely time management, studying. And I would also just say like, and this is less of like once again, like a academic skill, but just like building on my people skills. College is definitely the best time if you haven't done this before, to like really branch out. And not just in terms of networking, but just in terms of like finding your people, you know, what a better time to find people than in the time when everyone's finding themselves, you know. I don't know. That's just what I have to say about the matter. But yeah.
Josh, you're on mute.
I accidentally pressed show chat instead of unmute. Yeah, I would just did everything Imani said. I don't have much to add to that. What organizations and networks have assisted you most in your path at university? I mean, networks, I guess, like other students, really, that was probably the biggest support. So at MIT, I realized a lot of people around me are like, have done a lot and had way more background than I did. So I had friends that were like Olympiad gold medalists in other countries. And if you don't know what Olympiad is basically like this international competition, either math or chemistry or something else. And it's like hundreds and hundreds of students, way harder than any like standard high school class. And they got like gold, which means they were like first place. And I was just taking math, like algebra with these people. And so I had a ton of questions, but one thing that's nice about MIT is very collaborative. There's like zero competitive nature here. And so yeah, just getting to know more students and like acknowledging my weaknesses, where that was probably like the number one assist throughout university. And no, I have not met Lex Friedman, but I've heard the name before. Great question though.
Yeah, I would also like to add to what Josh said. I think once again, when we think about networking, we often think about like moving up the ladder, right? And trying to network with people in places that we want to be in. But networking across is equally as important, because those are the people that you're going to work with. Those are the people who are going to, you know, put you on to whatever, you know, events are going on in your industry. You know, those are the people who are also going to recommend you when they have an in. And yeah, and I would also just say in terms of networking, like, you know, maybe not even thinking of it as like being transactional. It's not a, you know, I'm networking with you because you have something I want, but just I'm networking with you because I genuinely enjoy also like what you offer to our dual relationship, you know? So yeah, I'll definitely go off of that as well. My classmates, most definitely. And all the organizations I was a part of. I always say like ASA, the African Students Association, like those weren't just like my e-board members, like they're my actual family. And we see that every time someone has a birthday, because now we're all in the same place. So, you know, there's that. But I'll see another question. What was college like and how do you manage your time? I don't know I know you just answered first before, but if you have an answer.
Oh, it's me. Yeah, what's college like? So, I mean, maybe from the like going from high school perspective, um, first thing is you never have to wake up as early as you do for high school. And that is the biggest, I mean, man, I didn't actually realize like how how powerful sleep is. Like, yeah, I was like, what have I been doing with my life? So classes, you may have class someday, you may not have class someday. I really only have class on like Tuesdays and Thursdays, Mondays and Wednesdays. I don't really have that much class. Um, at the same time, though, everything's really up to you. So someone gave me this analogy. I thought it's really great. In middle and high school, you are spoon fed. Someone like cooks the steak for you, and then they cut it up, and you sit there, and the teacher like puts it in your mouth, and they're responsible for feeding you and for teaching you the things. And so if an entire class fails, people will say it is responsibility of the teacher to make sure you know the content. College, they present you the steak and they go, good luck, go eat it yourself. MIT, they give you the cow and they say, good luck, try butchering it. And so it's up to you to learn stuff. So doing the homework does not necessarily mean that the content is in the brain. I have done homework before and thought I knew stuff. And then AP Physics, which I did fairly well in. I remember I took my second mechanics test. I got a fresh 33. And I still remember the questions. That's how bad it was. So you actually have to manage, like, you have to factor in like extra studying. And then for time management, I use Google Calendar. Sometimes it's tighter than others, tighter than other times, like how much I manage my time. But yeah, there's a lot more you have to consider, and you also don't know how long it's going to take for you to learn stuff. So that's a big adjustment.
You know, most definitely. I would also say, yes, but especially if you get involved in like other extracurriculars. I had like 3 jobs my senior year. So I had like my 3 jobs, my 3 organizations, and I was just everywhere except for home, which was super interesting because I was paying rent. But yeah, no, I mean, college was, other than the lack of time that I had and trying to balance all of that, I think college was super fun. And I think it is more fun the more that you get involved. I don't mean to like overexert yourself and like do the thing that everyone does their first year where they join like 1,500 organizations. And then they're like, I can't make any of these meetings because I actually have class. But yeah, but just like, once again, like just leaning into your interest and like finding your people and finding what actually sticks with you and what works with you. And yeah, shout out to Google Calendars, because if it's not on my calendar, I don't know it exists. Let's be so for real. Yeah, I have to start sticking Post-it notes on my forehead to remember things sometimes. So there is that. Oh, there's another question. Oh, these are great. What is your advice to students? Oh, yeah, what is your advice to students for handling adversity in your studies? Now that's a weighted question. A real question though. I would say, oh, okay. So I will say my experience at Clark was very different from my experience here at Columbia. I think also just like the cultural differences of going to an HBCU versus going to a PWI is definitely worth mentioning. And neither experience has been like outright terrible, right? But I will say, especially at Columbia, it's been especially different, knowing that like for me in my cohort, I'm like 1 out of 3 Black students in a cohort of 300. And that's usually what it's like for schools, for programs in the engineering school. And so some of my experiences have definitely been interesting, some with, you know, like microaggressions, some with macroaggressions, very blatant. And I would say definitely the best advice is to, one, surround yourself with like a support system. One that, you know, once again, will support you when you ask for that support, but also will advocate for you when you really need it. And I think that's where like also networking really comes into play, because there were certain situations that I couldn't handle myself. But also just understand that like if you are in a program or if you are in a university, wherever you are, like you deserve to be there. I think sometimes when with certain experiences of adversity, it's very easy to feel like, you know, like you're not the smartest in the room, or, you know, like maybe it was just a fluke that you're here, but it's nothing is coincidental. And so you deserve to be in this program. You deserve to be in this institution just as much as everyone else is. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, that's a great question. My answer to that would be humility. Just like there are things that happen, and you can't solve everything on your own. So I mean, I know one of the biggest struggles for me was feeling like I was pretty dumb. Like so I one of the reasons I stayed in scholars from middle and high school, because it was middle and high school, was because I felt like I would be able to shine more. And it was like my parents called it like a smaller pond. So like if you did well, you'd be like 1,000, school of 1,000 versus like school of like 1,000,000. And so like I kind of banked on performing better than other people and like how I would view myself, and how like good at school I thought I was. And so I couldn't maintain that at MIT. So but it was actually a blessing. So that to not be the smartest person in the room, because that just means you can learn from everyone else in the room. And there's that pressure on yourself is not there anymore. So I really started to learn more when I confessed that. So yeah, that's what I'll say. Um, Ooh, I see a really good question. If a student is afraid or overwhelmed with math, do you think they can still have a chance in engineering as a career? Yes, yes, yes. Um, Math, oh man, this is something I love. I love this subject. Math is the bane of students' existence. I remember so many, like there were so many arguments at home that would start over a math problem. And you think like, why is this so hard? This makes no sense. Um, Everyone learns math differently. And so if something is not making sense to you, like that is okay. Like try it again. Find other resources to help you. I mean, I remember taking classes. So I was relatively good at math. Math right now is those are my hardest classes, and I get the lowest grades in them. So and vice versa. Like I didn't there was a lot of math I didn't know. And I thought I was doomed. I was like, I've never seen a proof before. I've never seen group theory. I've never seen functional analysis. I've never seen Fourier transforms. But for an electrical engineer, you're just like, oh yeah, Fourier transforms. Like, how do you not know about that? But I was not doomed. I just learned it. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, take a step back and try engineering anyway. Find those support resources because there are people who love math and who want to help you wherever you are.
And I see another question. What is the best thing about your school and or programs that you attend? I would say for my current program, I really love just the opportunities to engage in different, once again, like areas of data science. You know, not everyone wants to go into tech, not everyone wants to go into finance. Some of us don't really know exactly where we're going into, but we love being there anyways. And so I definitely love that freedom. And specifically about Clark, I mean, I loved everything about Clark. Down to fried chicken Wednesdays. There wasn't anything about Clark that I couldn't stand. And so yeah, I mean that's my answer for that. And I think there's some other questions coming in. Oh, well, there's another question. How does thinking like an engineer, thinking of an engineering design process help you develop as a student? That's a super good question. And I think also a really great question. Considering what we're talking about, I would say just the idea of like breaking down, once again, this really overwhelming problem, breaking it down to like feasible steps helps me with everything. I get very overwhelmed very quickly. And so sometimes I have to transform into, you know, my engineering mode. And I'm like, okay, I really want to make this cake. What are the steps? Like that's what it is. You know, it's as simple as making an algorithm for waking up and getting my breakfast in on time. So yeah, I think those are transferable skills you can apply to anything, especially as a student, especially when you have all these different classes and like concepts to understand.
Yeah, 100% agree. So let's actually apply the engineering design process to this math problem, right? We're overwhelmed. This is a huge problem. Okay, let's break it down. Let's break down what is in this topic that's really hard. Let's take calculus, right? All right, what's in calculus? All right, we have derivatives, we have integrals. What's in derivatives? We have the power rule, we have the chain rule, got the product rule. All right, what's in the, and then you just keep breaking it down and you go around and you see if you can learn something. Let's say you take the test and that's your testing phase. Let's say you fail a test. You go, okay, now the non-engineer, the student overwhelmed would be like, oh man, I just did so poorly. I flunked my test. But failing actually helps you become a better engineer. So if you never fail, then you're not really learning well. So celebrate failure is one thing All-Star Code would tell me. Because if you fail math tests, that means you're able to apply the EDP over and over again. So I think really like, let's say you fail just like machine, exactly. Machine learning is modeled off after the brain, FYI. So if your brain sees math and you fail math, your brain's like, how can I learn this better? Remember, your brain is just a computer, so it's built to understand math. But yeah, you can just go over that again and say, okay, this derivative, I didn't understand it. Why didn't I understand it? You can go, you talk with other people, have a little testing rig where you can like take practice tests, and just adapt your approach over and over again. So, I mean, yeah, it's totally, you can be a better student. Just engineer your learning.
Well, I'm gonna hop in because we have run out of time for our Q&A. You had some amazing questions, but I just have to say thank you to Joshua and Imani for being so engaging and inspiring these students and these teachers with so many questions. And it is your time to get back into that engineering design process and try and succeed and make those failures and learn from those failures with your catapult. And we will see you back in half an hour. We're gonna open up the breakout rooms again, and